Game Day Coaching members, this is Rick Storley from New Home Sales Coach, and we're discussing today the Remodeler Sales Readiness Quiz, specifically the questions on objections. So let's get started. We're in question 6, and the question that we're answering is, how would we answer somebody that tells us they want to, number one, think about it. They're telling us we can get these services for free elsewhere, or they might be objecting with, we want to meet with another remodeler first, or perhaps, your price is too high, can you come down? So what I'm going to reveal today is some specific objection strategies and tactics, and then we'll go over some sample scripts for these questions. Here are some thoughts to keep in mind with objections. Number one, an objection is typically more than just a request for more information. You don't have to oversell the answer. Just make sure that they are okay with the answer and then move on. Objections do help your prospects rationalize their decisions. So in other words, if you're not getting anybody that's objecting, they're not a real buyer. That's a very important sales signal. You never take the objection at face value. There's always a deeper meaning. However, we too often get way hung up on looking at the specific thing that they're objecting on and not really try to peel back a couple layers and find out what it is. And the typical objections are just this. Something to do with money or credit. It normally always comes down to that, and there's some sort of a smokescreen objection that comes up because of it. And then number 5, we got to be prepared for the 3 to 6 most common objections. So in this case, we've got 4 objections that are pretty common when we're out on a sales call for remodeling, and we're going to go over now how to deal with them. There's 10 specific strategies that I like to use for objections. I'm going to reveal them here. Number 1 is to shelve it. This is usually when you get a minor objection up front, is don't dive right into it, but simply shelve it. Just say, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, would it be okay if I made a note of that and we come back to that later? Because obviously up front you're trying to educate them, you're trying to get them emotionally tied, build that trust and rapport to what you're offering. Never argue with people. That's the first thing to do, is you'll trigger a defense mechanism and you'll lose every time. You can't attack people. Be very sensitive. You've got to make sure that you, if possible, you lead guests to answer their own objections through questioning. We'll talk more about that. Another strategy we like to use is reviewing their history. Talk about a previous major decision they made that was really tough, but after they made it, they felt good about it. Or perhaps a decision they made that was a mistake, such as making a purchase decision based on a low price. We want to put the shoe on the prospect's foot. So if you're hearing a consistent objection out there in the marketplace, just turn it around and say, what, if you were a remodeling contractor today, what would you do? And see what their answer is. And then you want to more or less reinforce, that's exactly the reason we do this. Changing the base of the objection. This goes back to the smokescreen. So if somebody is hung up on one minor item, but they're okay with 90% of what you're offering, go back and review with that 90% and to say, hey, what's more important? The fact that you're getting this, and this, or that you may not be quite satisfied with this. And so you want them to say, yeah, you're right. It's basically a good deal. Question down the objection. We'll talk specifically more about that. The 6-step process for minimizing objection. This is when you get a major objection at the end of your process, end of your sales process. Hear it out, repeat it back, and rephrase it. But at the same time, you're going to temper it, question it, and then we want to give our pre-planned response, get agreement from them, and move on. That's a 6-step process. The number 10 is brag about it. So this is a really good strategy. If you're consistently hearing an objection, there's always a positive to every objection. So again, your price is too high, you brag about it. People sometimes complain that our price is too high. However, nobody ever complains after our project's done on the experience they received during their remodel and the fit and finish and the products that we use in their home. We don't do things to do it short term, we do things to do it long term and to last you the next 10 or 20 years. So you're bragging about your price being a little bit too high. All right, the next thing we're going to look at here is some objection phrases. These are specific phrases that you can do based on the personality type of your prospect. So we have phrases for more dominant personalities. We have phrases for the influencer type personality, the people that are very emotional. We have phrases for the steadiness or the lamb personality, and then phrases for an analytical. And one of the universal phrases I like to use is, let me present the information to you and you can be the judge if it makes sense. The rest of the things you'll find on here are sample objections and then an objection worksheet. Happy selling.